I'm not looking at if I get it wrong. I'm only looking at, I'm going to get it right if I just keep doing it long enough. I'll get it back. And that's the wrong mentality, because when you're distorted and you're all bent up and trying to pursue something that is not, it's not a viable trade. You're trying to impose your will. You want what you want. And what have you done? You grabbed your club as a caveman, walked out your cave, and you're looking for something to bonk over its head and drag it back to your cave and say it's mine. And that's what I did. And then ended up not making 3 profitable trades to get back the losses. Then I switched and I traded cotton, and then blew the account that day. All because I had a target that I was just 1 point away from. And I felt so certain that it was going to trade to that level and allow me to get to it. It was a pursuit to have my will, well, come to fruition. Not, is there really a trade here? Is there really a trade here that makes sense? No, absolutely not. But I would love to hear stories like that from other traders where they just fell short of a target that they had to have. And they pushed the envelope, they pushed the trade, they pushed more trades because they had to get that number, they had to get that target, and they blew themselves. I know I'm not the only one that's ever had that experience. I know there has to be more of you out there that's done that. If you have, you just say, hey, I did that dumb shit too. And look where you're at now, what you are learning. That wasn't the end of your career. That didn't do you in where you don't want to trade anymore. It's an unfortunate thing. It was a car accident that, you totaled that car. It sucks, I know. But it's not the end of it. You have to slow yourself down, apply the brakes, put some time in between the last thing you just did to yourself that's caused pain, drawdown, an adverse result that you did not want to have, but now you're stuck with. So now how are you going to deal with it? Are you going to allow it? Is my son going to allow this to frame a toxic mindset going forward? Is he going to be fearful of things now? Is he going to be afraid to take trade entries now more so because, remember, that's how he started. He's afraid. And what did he do? He listened to my lecturing saying, this is how you overcome it. This is how you don't fear it. So he just plunged trying to overcome fear. But he tried to do it with his funded account, not the demo. He did the classic, I want to get in there and start making money. I got to learn how to trade with real money. If you want to learn how to trade, you got to start with a real account, because demos don't do it. That's bullshit. And here's my own flesh and blood proving it. You got to listen to me, folks. You have to listen to me. I've done this to myself dozens of times. If anybody knows how this is going to happen over and over again, I fucking know. I'm qualified to teach that. Okay? I absolutely am certain that there is nobody out there better equipped to be able to say, look, these are the characteristics that's going to result in you harming yourself. And if you do the opposite of these things and do the things I tell you to replace these toxic views, you're probably going to stand a better chance of not having done that again or ever in the future. And that's a pretty good target to reach for if you're a new trader. If you've never blown your account, it's not required for you to do that. Like, that's not something that we're sitting around, and I always use this analogy a lot, but in Jaws, the first one, they're sitting in the cabin part, and they're all showing each other, the worst scars they got. They're always trying to one up the next guy. You know how it is. You got a friend or somebody at work, Carl. He's got something that's much more than what you went through. Something better, or something he had to endure that was worse than that. That fucking kind of person gets on my nerves. Well, you don't need to do that with trading. You don't need to blow an account. Yeah, I blew an account too, ICT. Look at that. I got the war scar. Look at that. Fuck that. You don't need to do that. Who wants to do that? I want to create all of you monsters out here where you don't have that scar tissue and say, you know what? I didn't have to go through that. I want you to be able to say, I never blew my account. But the chances of that, I'm aware of that happening is very slim. But I know if I keep doing what I'm doing, invariably, there's going to be at least one of you. One of you will find consistency, profitability, and not having blown your account. But chances are it's going to be a very, very, very small number that get that. Because the human body, the human mind, emotions, and how psychology works, you'll have this experience like my son. You'll feel this impulsiveness where you think that there's an emergency. You created a drawdown, and that emergency in your head is not an emergency that's in the real world. Yes, you did something wrong. Yes, you don't have the equity in the account that you had before you did that. So what? When you put your trade on, guess what happens? You didn't have, at that moment, the same equity high. Commissions coming out, you're under a spread, you got to overcome that. You fell off your equity high. Maybe not so dramatically, but you got to put things in perspective. When you put a trade on, the trade might draw down intra-trade. That means before stopping out and before closure. Guess what you're doing there? You're in drawdown. Are you losing your shit because of that? Some of you will be after drawdown. You'll be thinking it's the end of the world. Oh my goodness, it just moved 6 ticks. What the hell am I going to do? Ticks, not handles. But you'll be so sensitive, hypersensitive to that. And it's hard to wrestle through that. I cannot, as a mentor, listen to me, folks, okay? This is the reason why I teach this way. I cannot, as your mentor, I can't fix what you do to yourself once you get in that mind state. Or state of mind, rather. I don't have a way to fix what you have done emotionally and psychologically to yourself and how you're thinking and how you're talking to yourself. I'm not in your head. I don't know what you're saying to yourself. I don't know what you're convincing yourself was the real culprit that caused you to go into drawdown. But I can promise you this, it's not the things that you're thinking at that time was the real catalyst. It's not me, it's not the concepts, it's not the market, it's not the dealer, it's not the broker. It's you. It's always going to be you. And now when you're met with drawdown, that cracks that sphere of invincibility, that force field that you thought you had all this time because you're young and you think you're going to live forever. And even if you break a bone, who gives a shit? You're young enough, it won't be that big of a deal. Now, you lost your force field. Something got inside and touched you. And drawdown shows you how you're going to react. Not just then, but how you're going to react in the future every time you go through drawdown. And if you don't handle it properly or learn how to do it appropriately and talk yourself through it, remind yourself there is no emergency, you will be stressed out always as a trader, even being profitable. When you're in drawdown, you have to be very careful how you manage yourself psychologically and emotionally. You have to be the cheerleader for yourself. Nobody else is going to do it. And you do that through your journal. You have to keep yourself accountable. The only one that's going to be doing that is you. And how do you do that? Through your journal and writing out what you're doing. Your drawdown. How much money are you in drawdown? You're looking up at that peak, that mountain, Mount Everest drawdown. Okay? You're looking up there. All right, 153,400 and whatever it was. Okay? How do we get back up there, Cameron? How do we do that? You give yourself time. Take that time and be, well, an ample amount of time. Much more time that's required, which frees you up psychologically. Now, think about how it was when you were in university or when you were in grade school. You know that there's going to be a final coming. And all the studying that would be required, the students that are taking this education seriously, and they don't want to be stressed out the last minute, They're doing a little bit of studying each night, 30 minutes. Throughout the semester, throughout the quarter of their learning, right before we get to the final, those diligent students, the Koreans and the Asians in my class, were always teaching me how their parents told them how to study. They didn't wait for the last day or two right before the final, where everybody else tried to fucking cram it in the night before. Stressed the fuck out. And when I was in high school, no dose was a thing. Everybody went out and bought no dose, which was basically caffeine, so that way they can stay up and cram all that stupid shit, all these months and weeks of stuff. You can't do that. You can't do that and not be stressed out, and you're not retaining it all. So don't do that same mentality with trying to recover your drawdown. Don't try to push it all right now. It's got to happen right now. I got to have it done next week. I got to get back up to that equity high. No, you don't. No, you don't. There is no fucking deadline. But in your head, because everybody's on social media, everybody's showing the best of what they've done, not full scope of what it is they've done. Drawdown, losing trades, stop doing live streams because they can't fucking trade. Now nobody can see what they're doing to themselves. You have to be 100% responsible. But you also have to, in periods of drawdown, you have to coddle yourself. You have to prop yourself up, encourage yourself, and be constantly reminding yourself that there's no emergency or sense of urgency to get this drawdown back. The only person that's uncomfortable holding on to that drawdown is the retail Rick in you, the gambler. They want to get back to that high, that first buzz of being at that new equity high. They want to get back up there. They're the one inside of you that feels the ache of getting back up there. The trader doesn't have that feeling. The trader is the person that's pushing the buttons and managing the trade. And the analyst ain't worrying about it because that's not their job. Their job is to keep you on the straight and narrow. They're not worrying about the feelings of drawdown. They're saying, this is what we're supposed to be doing right now. The trader is, this is what I'm doing based on what the analyst is telling me I should be doing right now. And I'm managing risk. Retail Rick is in the back fucking clamoring to get the steering wheel. He wants to drive into a tree. He wants to jump airborne like the Dukes of fucking Hazzard. Remember the old show in the 70s? I love that show. I grew up watching that shit. I'll be honest with you, as a kid, I couldn't wait to get a car because I wanted to jump every fucking hill out there. Now, I was being primed to do all the wrong shit, right? Just like in trading, we're primed to do everything wrong. Recklessly trading and try to gamble and get it all back in one day. And that's all the wrong way. You think if you can get the drawdown back quickly, you're a better trader. No, you're just a lucky gambler. Lucky gambling is not impressive to me. I'm not impressed by that. Someone can trade with crazy fucking leverage, make lots of money doing that, and I'm fucking bored to death by that. Because people do that same shit with lottery tickets, and there was no skill in them buying that ticket. There was no skill when that person going to the slot machine, pushing the button, and they got the maximum payout. There was no skill involved. They were at the right place at the right time, and circumstances just led to that occurrence. There it is, boom. That's it, it's done. No skill in over leveraging, YOLO trading, but consistently able to see something over and over and over again, delivering that absolutely impresses me. If someone were to sit out there with one contract and just slice and dice based on a model that was already pre-described as, this is what I'm going to do, I'm only going to do this, and this is how much I'm willing to risk, and I'm never going to go over that, and this is my procedure of taking a loss. If I take a loss, I stop for that session, I trade the next session, or trade the next day. And they stuck to that, and they only made $50,000 for the entire year. I'm fucking impressed by that. To me, that's skill. That's absolute 100% skill. Full 100% responsibility. They own it. They're in control of themselves. their capacity to stay on track within a model is perfect, that is much more impressive to me than how much money. How much money is, it's relative. Who gives a shit? As a trader, I like seeing people that can own their mistakes, don't become reckless, go in there and start trading with a lot of, leverage to try to fix something real fast on a small little move. That's just gambling. That's gambling. And I'm so against that idea. That's what makes me boring as a mentor, because I'm teaching my students to aim with very, very small targets. In the beginning, you start there. And for the people that have a brain, they can understand that that's all that would be required to have a really amazing career. If you can consistently find 5 handles, how many times does the market move around and offer 5 handles inside of a day? Several. You're not limited to that one, but you have to know what one looks like and find it consistently. And then you grow in your understanding about yourself, how you're going to react, what you're looking for. Boom, other models make themselves available to you. And then you can start seeing 10 handles a day per session sometimes. And then 20 handles in a day or more. And it need not be a runaway directional move. You can trade up and down and trade intraday without a bias. But you can't trade without an intraday bias in the beginning because you don't know what you're doing, which is the reason why I tell you focus on directional trading in the beginning. Not because that's all you should do, but you have to have a baseline to grow from and then be able to track your progress. And when you go in the drawdown, you go right back to basics. Go back to the basics.